Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 3 of Selfless Littl Gaming. We are brought to you today with our sponsor, Raise Energy. If you guys want to check them out, you can use promo code TS9000 at checkout for 20% off. Be sure to check us out on Spotify as well for the podcast. We already have 2 episodes on there for your fantasy football breakdowns of week 1 and week 2. Today we actually have a special guest with us. This is little Jacob's friend Lewis. So Lewis, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Luis Sanchez. You can find me on Facebook. I don't really do the social media thing, so I have a Facebook. So if you want to look me up, I usually post, my picks for the week, who I think's gonna win. I do a lot of parlays and things like that. So I'll put some of my input on, who I think will win. But there's a disclaimer. I'm not a professional. I'm just kind of give, just my little insight on what I think. Sometimes I hit, sometimes I don't, that's kind of how it is with sports betting.
Yeah.
I'm very much into sports betting myself. Had pretty good streak so far this season for both college and NFL. I'm positive right now, but yeah, like Lewis said, definitely not a professional by any means. So take my information with a grain of salt. And of course, as y'all know me, Selfless Gaming. You can find me on Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Selfless_gaming. And then the big amigo down south of me is little Jacob. Little Jacob.
What's up, guys? Little Jacob here. Of course, you can also find me on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok. I do have a Facebook page, but mostly interact on Twitter and, of course, on my Twitch and TikTok, so feel free to look me up there. Also, big shout out to Alpha Lion Supplements, keeping me going strong the last few months, so big shout out to them. Check them out if you get the chance. Some good stuff there. And yeah, pretty excited to get into week 3, guys. It's been a good week of football this past weekend.
So we like to kind of start off into the segment of recapping our fantasy football week. Just want everybody to know that we're not going to put on the gloves, because I actually found out a little bit prior to this episode that little Jacob and Lewis might have faced each other this week in fantasy football. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the matchup that we had this past weekend.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it much.
All right.
I got smoked.
Was it like you say you got smoked? Was it the score remotely close or no? Like, did you have a chance?
No, I really, from the get-go, I didn't have a chance. Well, I mean, it started real good. Thursday football, McLaren got me like 25 points. So I felt really good going in, to Sunday. But his players had like the best week that they could possibly ever have. So that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. Sometimes your players just, every single one of them shows up. And that's what Jacob did this past weekend.
So, little Jacob, how did your go through your team's breakdown and kind of like what points and stuff they put up?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, during week 2, like just taking a look here, like some of the main guys that you normally would have produced for me previously just did it this time, surprisingly enough. Like the heavy hitters like Tyreek Hill only had 5.9 points. Cooper only had 5.4. They didn't really do a whole lot in the games, but the guys that really did stand out again, that really helped me out was, of course, Kyler Murray just going crazy. He threw 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that was like 41 points. Najee Harris had a pretty solid game and a receiving touchdown. So that was a really big help that he got going. And then looks like Gronkowski got another 2 touchdowns. I knew it was a good idea to start him over Pitts just because Pitts didn't have such a big first game, and he really did in the second one. So, yeah, I mean, it helped to get those guys swapped out. Those are probably some of the biggest hitters on the team that helped me out with Gronkowski and Kyler Murray. Also, Higgins also had another pretty solid game. He's questionable for this next week, so I got to see what that's about and kind of keep an eye on that. And so is Amari Cooper. But, yeah, surprisingly, like Lewis said, some of the players had the best week of football that they could possibly have, and that's what helped me get over the hump there. With some of these guys that were like the premier starters that I had.
I know Higgins, he got quite a few of his stuff late in the game because I Dude, I guess the Cincinnati Bengals decided to take a page out of Oprah Winfrey's book and just give the ball away. Everybody got an interception or a sack or a
Yeah.
fumble this past week, and good lord, man, like it was bad. Like it's bad for the Bengals, but it was very bad to watch because that was like a local team for me where I'm at. So those games are
Yeah.
always on.
Oof.
But oh my gosh, man, like running through mine real fast. So speaking to that, the guy had the Bears defense, and they got
Okay.
25 points to start with. Plus, he had Terry McLaurin on Thursday night, so he already
Mm,
had a very big lead.
yeah.
Overall, Steelers defense, I think actually they could have done a lot better personally, but when TJ Watt went out with his groin injury, that defense did not look the same. They could not put any pressure on them, and it just, I don't know, it really surprised me how much Las Vegas was able to move the ball and everything, and how much more Carr had time to actually like move the football. But
Yeah.
Daryl Henderson for the Rams, he got me 15. Jalen Waddle, he actually kind of took a hit because Tua got hurt, and the Bills
Yeah.
defense pretty much did whatever they wanted to Miami. Um, Tyler Higbee, the tight end for the Rams, did nothing. Like I kind of was almost wondering if he got hurt during the game because he only got me 1.3, so that kind of hurt.
Hmm.
Keenan Allen did well. Melvin Gordon, he still did okay, but he didn't have the week one performance like he did. Then Zeke started to kind of show his true form, like he's capable of. And then Patrick Mahomes, he of course did Patrick Mahomes things. Um, with that being said, though, I think me and little Jacob were talking about it, and I said, dude, from this point out, because I have Tony Pollard, and with the amount of like carries they've been splitting and how productive Pollard's been, I was like, I'm playing Zeke and Pollard like both now. Like I'm putting them both in because we don't have a kicker in our league. We actually added a second like wide receiver, running back, tight end, like a second flex spot instead of a kicker. And I'm legit thinking about with Michael Gallup being out and Pollard's utilization for the next couple of weeks, actually throwing him in there because he's getting touches and it's a PPR league. So I'm
Yeah.
about to just roll the dice for the next couple of weeks with those two guys. So, Lewis, how'd your team do? Like I know you didn't get the win, but production wise, like what'd your guys look like?
I mean, it actually, I was actually looking at it while you and little Jacob were talking, and they didn't really do too bad. To be honest with you, if I would have played anybody else, I would have won. But I'm looking at my running back projection. It's just, I have Gaskins from Miami. When you get down behind, they're not really running the ball that much.
Yeah.
So they're trying to come back from behind. So he didn't really give me much. And then I don't know what's going on in Washington because normally Gibson would be getting the carries, but they just don't seem to be using them. They're using their backup, especially when it was kind of crunch time. So he could have. I know there could have been more production there, but for some reason he wasn't in the game when they needed him at the end. So it's just really the running back. I got Mitchell because I was really banking on Raheem Monstart, to have a big
Yeah.
year, especially in the flex, spot. But he got hurt
Yeah.
week one, so I picked up Mitchell. He did decent, but he got hurt during the game as well. So it's just really my running back situation.
I gotcha. Yeah, the San Francisco's like last year, man, they had issues on offense, they had issues on defense with injuries, and their running backs have already been depleted. Like they've already had several guys go down, and it's kind of I feel like it's put more pressure on their offense as a whole, where they don't have their like key guys in
Yeah.
right now. So kind of sucks for them, but that's part of the game, man. Happens. Um, what's your guys' week three matchups look like right now? Mine's we're actually pretty close. He's um, looks like I'm 48% and he's like 52%. So we got a pretty almost 50-50 split right now on our matchups.
Yeah, bro, that's pretty much the boat I'm in right now. One of the other guys from work that I'm playing against, he's got a really good team. He actually scored over 200 points last week. Um, I'm at a 48% to 52%, and he's got Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Henderson Jr., Keenan Allen, Cooper Cup, which is going to be a good matchup for the Bucks, for fantasy wise.
Yeah.
It's got Buffalo's defense, which are facing Washington. So he's got a pretty good, pretty really solid team. I mean, they dropped, like I said, they dropped over 200 points this last time around. So it's really going to be up to how productive my starters are going to be, and if they can limit the guys that he has on his team. I mean, I guess I can maybe bank on maybe Lamar Jackson not playing as good as he has the past week against Detroit. I don't know, but it's going to be a tough game for sure. I'm definitely going to be watching that with a lot of intensity. The scores the whole day, just kind of seeing everything go back and forth because we both got some really good players on the roster for Sunday.
Lewis, what about you?
Yeah, we're looking at about 52% chance for me to pull off the victory, but it is going to be pretty close. One of the things that I'm looking at, hopefully with Justin Fields at quarterback, because I know Andy Dalton sometimes when he's in the pocket, he's not mobile, so he doesn't have that, to throw. He gets sacked and stuff like that. So hopefully with Justin Fields, I have Allen Robinson. So hopefully that creates a little bit for me in the receiving core. So hopefully he'll have a big game. But I'm looking at I'm at 52% chance of winning. So if we can get those running backs to start, playing a little better, I think my receiving core, my quarterbacks, I got Pat Mahomes, I got McLaren at receiver. So I think we're looking solid. We just need the running backs to pick up a little bit of slack.
Okay. I mean, yeah. So with the fantasy, we usually like to do like the stardom, stedum type deal. Um, Man, I feel like there's just especially week 3 right now, there's a lot of matchups,
Yeah.
but a lot of these matchups that are going on, I feel like there's some key injuries that actually could kind of not only dictate your fantasy outcome, but also dictate the actual game. Um, but little Jacob, who are some people that you would consider definitely starting this week for sure?
Yeah, for sure. Someone I definitely consider starting, especially if you're needing to get a win or if they're available, someone to draft them or you have them sitting on your bench. Derek Carr versus Miami, I think it's going to be a really great fantasy opportunity. He's just had the last 2 games, he's just balled out and really put up some really good numbers fantasy wise. And against the Miami's defense, I see him doing more of the same like he's done the last 2 weeks. They're really rolling hot on that win streak right now. And I think that's a really good bet if you can, especially if you're needing a win this next week. If you can get Derek Carr to start for you, that'd be really good. Someone I would say you probably want to sit at the quarterback would probably be Joe Burrow versus Steelers. He's coming off a 3 interception game. I know he's not a rookie, but he's still, very relatively fresh when it comes to playing through a season and playing through the ups and downs. I just don't see this being an easy game for him. Coming off of that Bears defense game where he threw those 3 interceptions. I wouldn't start him if you don't have to going up against the Steelers. But I could be wrong. I mean, it might be the opposite because of the lack of the rush that they have. It might change it up for him, but usually, games like that can be kind of rough on younger quarterbacks when they come off a game like that where they do 3 interceptions. Um, as far as a running back, I think Tyson Williams versus Detroit with the Ravens, I think that's going to be a pretty good start. The Lions have actually given up the most fantasy points by running backs, I think, since 2020, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean that guy, and then not to mention that Tyson Williams has been doing pretty decent as far as his average per yards per handoff and everything. He's getting a good amount of yards each time he gets the ball. He's got some pretty decent fantasy points the last 2 weeks. So I think that's a good idea to throw him in there if you can, or if you have him as a back on your bench and you can throw in the flex or something. Um, I'm looking at receivers, and I was kind of mentioning earlier Cooper Cup. I think it's going to be a big time receiver come versus Tampa Bay this weekend. I think he's averaging 4.4 yards, about that much. And normally, I think they said that. Well, when I say 4.4 yards, they actually said that was the amount of distance he has between him and a defender. on 11 targets like in one game, which I believe was the last game. So seeing that the Bucks surprisingly allows the second most fantasy points to receivers. I mean, just like Amari Cooper's first game, they had 13 he had 13 catches, 2 touchdowns. I don't see why Cooper Cup can't go out there and just have a great day. That's a really big one. If you're gonna sit a receiver, and I'm not just saying this, because I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm saying this because it really is what we're seeing happen in front of us is that you're gonna see Trayvon Diggs, Dallas Cowboys cornerback, cover probably Jalen Rager for the Eagles, and also their first round draft pick. I just don't see them being able to get much on him. I mean, the guy has like the best like passer rating or defensive passer rating when the ball's thrown his way, 2 interceptions over 2 games. I don't really see them be able to get much of anything as long as he's out there. So I wouldn't start either one of those guys, or probably maybe not even the Eagles receiver come Sunday. Me personally, just because I know the level of skill that Trayvon's going to bring there on Sunday in coverage.
Yeah. What about you? What do you like? Who are you kind of considering definitely like starting this week and then possibly sitting this week?
Well, to your point earlier with Zeke and Tony Pollard, it kind of gives me Cleveland Brown type vibes. You see, Kareem Hunt getting a lot of the carries, and then of course you got the starter in Chubb that's getting a lot of the carries. And I've seen it, within the last 2 years of their Cleveland Browns running production. I've played against teams that put both of them in the game, and they're both giving running back one type numbers. So I mean, I wouldn't hesitate on putting Zeke as, of course, you have him in as your starting running back, and then you put Tony Pollard as a flex. So I do see that as something that you can do. Also too, Deebo Samuels from the 49ers, he's looking solid the first 2 games. And I really, to be honest, don't see his production declining. I think he's solidified himself as the number one receiver. Of course, you got Ruggs with the Raiders. He looks solid as well. I would if you have somebody like Parker from Miami, I would look to sit him. Maybe put somebody in like Ruggs. Ruggs has been on the waiver wire. So if you can get somebody like him, I would look to get that. Now, somebody that I've been looking at, these last 2 weeks, who's getting a lot of points at quarterback is Daniel Jones. Now, they're not winning, but you see those runs, he's getting a lot of yards on the run. That's fantasy points. It doesn't have to be pretty, but you just have to get the points. He's putting up like almost 30 points a game. So against the Falcons, if you need some kind of filler, I don't see why you wouldn't, start Daniel Jones, putting up 30 points. And maybe also too, my last player, I'm looking at Blake Jarwin to really have a big game with the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. That's really contingent upon possibly Cooper being out. He has a rib injury. If he's out, they're going to need some production at the tight end position. So I could really see Blake Jarwin having a big game. You haven't seen any Cowboys tight ends really have a big game up to this point. So I think they're due to have a big game at tight end.
So is he like, what's his status with his rib injury? Because I didn't realize he had one right now.
Yeah, I was looking. He's questionable right now. I've been looking at it because I have him in one of my other leagues, and it says that he is questionable. And I know Amari Cooper, he's tough. He doesn't really miss any games. So if he can play, he's gonna play. I know that. But the thing when you have a Monday night game is, do you want to risk having them, in your lineup, and then on Monday he doesn't play?
It's true.
And then, you're kind of in that little bit of a predicament. So it's kind of, you just kind of look at it like that. But I'm thinking he's going to play. But you may want to kind of do your homework a little bit on that.
Hopefully it's not a game time decision, clear it up for everybody. Instead of those are the ones that suck when it's a game time decision, because then you have to run the risk of keeping them in or not.
Yeah. That and like those Monday night games, I love them because it helps kind of like start your week off, having football and everything. But fantasy wise, it can definitely be very stressful because depending on how Sunday goes, Mondays can either hurt you or they can save you, either one. So, for me this week, Uh, if you can get this defense, get this defense because they are actually third overall right now after 2 games, and that's the Denver Broncos. And they're going up against the Jets, which, as everybody knows, is pretty much a bye week for like the past 3 seasons. They've done a lot of fantasy value. Pretty much any defense that's played the Jets has had a lot of really good fantasy value. And I think everybody was a little bamboozled by Zach Wilson's performance in the first week because he actually didn't look too bad. And then I think the expectations of what people possibly thought he was going to have this year as a rookie showed up in week 2. I want to say he threw 4 interceptions. I know it was a lot. I know between like him and Trevor Lawrence, I want to say there was like 9 picks between the two of them or something. They both were bad like last week. They were true rookies last week.
Yeah.
So I would definitely try to pick up the Denver Broncos defense if you can. I know there's some guys in my league like they pick and drop defenses weekly. Like they just throw them in and out because you're going to get 10 points at the start of the game anyways. Another person I'm actually looking at to have a good week, I feel like Kyle Pitts is going to have a good week, the tight end for the Falcons. I actually feel like he is going to pop off this week against the Giants. I think the Giants secondary is going to focus a lot on Russell Gage and the Calvin Ridley. I think they're going to focus a lot on them, and I feel like it's going to give him a lot of one-on-one opportunities with their linebackers. And a person I'm actually kind of hesitant on playing this week, if you have them, I don't have them. I wish I actually was going to get Gronk this year, and the guy right in front of me took him. But I'm actually kind of hesitant on Gronk right now because the reason I feel that way is he's leading the NFL in touchdowns through 2 weeks. The guy's been extremely productive. And I just saw today that Antonio Brown has been placed on the COVID reserve list. So I don't know what the protocols are or like how many days you have to be on that before you have so many negative tests or however it works. But the fact that he is put on there today, it only gives you, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days to clear that list and be able to play. And I feel like with him, if he can't go, that limits one of your weapons at wide receiver. And the Rams secondary is pretty good. Defensive line's very good against the run. So I feel like teams might actually be able to prioritize and match up a little bit better with Gronk this week if Antonio Brown can't go. If he can go, the guy could still have solid productivity down the red zone. But yeah, sitting Gronk, definitely pick up the Denver defense for sure this week. I'd definitely be putting Kyle Pitts in. I feel like he's going to have a really solid week. And the last one I wanted to look at too was, where they at? I just saw them. I have my talking points in. I agree with Lewis on Derek Carr. I'm actually starting to jump on the Derek Carr train. Oh, Arizona. If you can get Rondell Moore, I saw today actually on ESPN that only 46% of leagues that are registered through ESPN, people have Rondell Moore acquired. I actually picked him up in my 8th round of my draft because I knew what he could do at Purdue, and I expected him to do what he's honestly doing right now. Through 2 weeks, he's been one of the most productive fantasy guys, and I think with the offense they already have and AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins, Edwards at running back, Kyler Murray being able to run the ball and be as explosive as he is, I think that offense has a ton of unlimited potential with weapons, personally. So if you can snag him real quick before these games this week, I'm not saying you necessarily even got to play him. I feel like this week, though, they might actually try to get him the ball a lot because it's Jacksonville. Their defense is pretty sorry. So they might try to actually do a little bit of game planning around him. But I pretty much picked him up because I didn't want anybody else having him because I knew there was potential there. I haven't played him yet, but I'm actually considering about putting him in this week.
Yeah. Okay. And real quick, dude, about the thing with COVID, because one of our linebackers, Neil, he unfortunately got put on the COVID reserve list. I think if I'm correct in what I read on Twitter, if you're vaccinated, you have to self-isolate for 5 days. If
Okay.
you're not, I think it's 10. So it kind of sounds like the window is a little too small for Antonio Brown to have a shot at coming back and playing.
Yeah.
You know, the good thing about Gronkowski though is like he caught only four passes this past week, and two of those were touchdowns. So even though he doesn't get a lot of grabs, the ones that he is getting, those are touchdowns. The most of them have been touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it's really going to come down to like the matchup they're going to have for him in the end zone, and who they're going to have on him, and if they can actually cover him. Because that's where he becomes a problem, is back there where he's got really good hands, athleticism, and then his size that he usually uses to get the football where other defenders can't. So
That's
it should
true.
be pretty interesting to see if they can pull it off.
Did you guys get a chance to watch Monday Night Football? Did you guys see like the Eli and Peyton like broadcast thing of it? Did y'all
Yeah.
see Gronk's ass on there? Like he's like,
Oh,
dude, it was like, I mean, my buddy texted me and he's like, bro, y'all need to tune in and watch Gronk right now with Peyton and Eli. And they're like asking him questions. And he's basically like, yeah, Tom asked me if I ever watch film. And I'm like, I mean, I watch it when we put it on in our meetings, but no. Like, he's like, well, how do you know what's going on? He's like, I don't. I just run by guys. Like I'm just like, what?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
But you can like tell, like Peyton and Eli were just like, they were like laughing about it, but they are also kind of thinking like, wait, he's actually serious about this. Like he doesn't watch film.
I actually saw something earlier today. I think he backtracked on it a little bit. I think he like apologized. I saw it was breaking news on my ESPN.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it said that he said something. I don't know exactly what he said. I don't want to quote him on whatever, but I saw that he said something about like that. I guess it was a joke or something like that.
Well, there was like some, you guys know the Patriots and all the scandals and stuff they've had, and Peyton even took some shots at the Patriots, like when they played the Super Bowl or something at his like locker room, like they were in their locker rooms or something. And he said like the next year, whenever him and his wide receivers wanted to talk, they'd always go talk in the showers and stuff because he knew his locker was bugged by the Patriots or something like that. It was pretty funny, man. I actually like that little segment they're doing. Pretty funny. All right, so who wants to start with the matchups this week? Who wants to go first? Upcoming Thursday night, Sunday.
I could start with the matchups. I have a couple games here. One of the games that I have highlighted is the Green Bay Packers and the 49ers. It seems like it's a good betting game. And when you look at the Packers, they're really rolling now. After week one, it was a horrible week one. But week two, of course, it was the Lions, but it looks like they started building their identity. Jones, give the ball to Jones and Devontae Adams as well. I think, Aaron Rodgers was still with the offseason. He was still talking about it in week one. He was still talking about it in interviews. But I think he's already put that in the past, and now he's going to be focused and zoned in. The 49ers, if you look at them, they're really run heavy. They run more than they pass it. They was looking at the stats, and they at least run like 10 plays running more than they do passing. So with the running situation that they have going on there, I think it's going to force Garoppolo to throw the ball more. And I think Green Bay is going to be ready for it. And I don't think the 49ers are going to be able to do what they have done in the last 2 weeks. And I think that calls for a Packers upset on the 49ers. There's another game that I'm looking at. When you look at the Bears versus the Browns, the Browns defense, they haven't really been as good as they're supposed to be. If you look at, week one, they did play Pat Mahomes in Kansas City, so I'll give them that. They gave up, I think I have on my notes here, they gave up 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and then Pat Mahomes rushed for a touchdown. And like I said, that's Pat Mahomes said that's a given. But then week 2, you're playing against the Texans and Tyrod Taylor, and Tyrod Taylor is like 10 for 13, 125 yards. He has a touchdown passing and a rushing touchdown. So now you're giving that up against the Houston Texans. So it's kind of concerning there. And then Mills, the backup, comes in the second half and throws a touchdown pass. So with Justin Fields, he's a mobile quarterback. So I'm actually looking, and plus, he wants to win that starting job, over Andy Dalton. So this is his chance, and I really feel like the Bears are going to go in and beat the Browns. Plus, Baker hasn't really been playing like last year Baker, so I think the Bears are going to upset the Browns on Sunday.
I like your point too to Justin Fields because like it's one thing to step up and take over in a game. It's another thing to have a week to prepare with the guys that you're going to be playing with. And so I'm interested to see, and we talked about this in our last episode, me and little Jacob, like your biggest improvement should come from week 1 to week 2. So technically that was his week 1. Now this is his week 2 of like actually playing, getting ready and stuff. So I like that. I like kind of the insight you got there and like what you're thinking.
Yeah, the Bears, I think they have like one of the I think the ranking was either like 30 or 31 offense with Andy Dalton there.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Yeah. So, I'm sure Justin Fields is going to take the opportunity he can to go out there and move the football and get that rank up and, like Lewis said, get a win.
Honestly,
more than anything.
I think they're like 30th because I think it's like the Jets, the Jags, and then like the Bears. And I'm not 100% on that, but like
you're probably right.
They're not very good. Like regardless, they're not very good.
Yeah.
I got to talk about a couple of the ones I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in Tampa Bay and the Los Angeles Rams. One of the things that really interests me in this game is looking at passing right now in the league. Tampa Bay is sitting at 5th overall as an offense in passing, and the Los Angeles Rams are sitting at 7th. And right in between them is the Cowboys. And they're averaging, or right now they have a total of 582 yards passing through 2 games. The Rams are averaging 10.7 yards a catch, though, whereas Tampa Bay is averaging 7.6. On the flip side of that, I'm looking at rushing, and overall, Tampa Bay ranks 31st out of 32, and Los Angeles ranks 28th at 32. Or 24th out of 32, I'm sorry. The Rams are they're only rushing for 175 yards through 2 games. That's an average of 3.4. And the Bucks are at 134 for an average of 3.8 yards. So both defenses are very good against the run. In the pass, like I'm very interested to see this game because they both can throw it pretty well so far to start the season. I'm interested to see how those matchups are going to go. Overall defensive rankings, right now, it looks like Tampa Bay is about 22nd right now. And the Rams are actually 12th overall right now. And that's just through 2 games. Like the Falcons actually were able to put up some points on them and stuff. That's kind of why I'm thinking Kyle Pitts might actually have a good week because they're actually able to score on them. So I don't know. With that being out at Los Angeles in that new stadium, I think the crowd's going to be pretty wild. I don't know what the spread is for that game. I haven't looked it up yet, but I don't know, man. I think I could see Los Angeles. I could see the Rams giving them their first loss on the season. I could actually see that happening. I don't know why. I just feel like with Donald in the middle and the pressure they can bring off the edge, I just feel like they might actually be able to really disrupt Brady, cause some issues for him. So that game really is interesting to me. Another one I'm actually looking forward to is the New Orleans and New England game. Really interested to see how New Orleans offense bounce back. They were atrocious. But with that being said, too, the defense, number one defense in the league right now is the Panthers through 2 weeks. Granted, though, they played the Jets week one. Like I said, that was pretty much a bye week. And then they played the Saints, which I don't know if the Saints like kind of had a hangover from the Green Bay game, like putting it on them as bad as they did, but they did not look like the same team at all. They struggled. Panthers defense, I'm not going to discredit them. They actually look really good. They look very tough this year. They got a lot of young guys that fly around in football. They look really athletic. So I'm interested to see that matchup between them and New England. And then the last one I'm really wanted to see a difference in is both these teams just came off a loss that was very close at the end of the game, and that's the Chargers and the Chiefs. And the Chargers going to the Chiefs. Actually, very interested to see how Justin Herbert does at Arrowhead Stadium against Patrick Mahomes. Like, I think that game actually would not surprise me if the combined total score at the end of it was like over 60 points. If it was like a 35-30 game, that wouldn't surprise me at all. So that's kind of my like matchups I'm looking into this week. Like, some things I'm focusing on. So, Jacob, how about you?
Yeah, man. Oh, one of the games that I was actually looking at just looks pretty interesting to me. I think that we have coming up here. It's going to be the Ravens and the Lions. So these are the numbers that kind of stick out to me as why this could potentially, like, after the big win from the Ravens. I'm sure that they have like a real good vibe going in that locker room and ready to take on the next game. They're going to Detroit, and even though the Lions have lost their first two games, I mean, we were talking about how we didn't think that Jared Goff is going to do really well because he doesn't really have any weapons or really anybody to get the ball to, and that he's actually been scoring a lot of points. He's been doing really well.
Yeah.
Jared Goff has like 115 passer rating when not under pressure this year so far, and Baltimore has like the fourth or third lowest like pressure rating on quarterbacks. So that's kind of where that gets balanced out. I think it's going to be a high scoring game for both teams, and it's just going to be about who can make a stop first. What I did notice though is that so far the Ravens defense is like the worst or second worst right now, just because of the points and the yardage allowed per game. The Lions aren't great or necessarily in the top, but they're not that bad. The defense has played better. Looking at it now, they're 20th. Yeah, they're ranked 20th. The Ravens are 31st or 31. The Ravens defense is third versus their 20th defense, and then the offense for the Lions looks like it's 12th, so it's not too bad. They look like they're more balanced out. Like if you put them side by side by the rankings on paper, it looks like the averages out to the Lions being a better team, even though the record doesn't reflect that. So I think that's going to be a really interesting game to see how that goes down in Detroit. And I think sometimes with Lamar Jackson, he'll have these big games where he does really well and really shines, but then kind of like that first game or some other games that he's had in the past, you kind of just start seeing like some kind of form of regression from him where he's turning over the ball, he's not making accurate throws, and they're not letting him get, really rolling on his feet, running the football, which he can, usually does most of his damage in contributing to the offensive rush attack. So I think that's going to be a good game, man, to see what happens. I think the last time the Ravens played the Lions, they blew them out, but this is going to be a different team. Also, the Lions running backs have combined for like 24 receptions, it says here. So that's a good chunk, that he's getting off, that Goff is getting off just to the running backs alone, and the receivers should have a pretty good day as well, since the Ravens defense isn't stopping anybody with all those injuries. They have like 13 guys on IR or something.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I'm not sure when I say this, but I heard this on Monday night, and I swear they said that. I know they have Latavius Murray.
Yeah.
I saw Devontae Freeman out on the field, and I heard that Le'Veon Bell was on the practice squad. And I literally wrote in the group chat of my fantasy group, I was like, did they literally just say their backfield might consist of Latavius Murray, Devontae Freeman, and Le'Veon Bell, who all those guys at one point were fantasy monsters. And I know
Yeah,
like Devontae Freeman's had his issues with injuries and like especially concussions.
yeah.
Le'Veon Bell, he hasn't really been the same guy since he left the Steelers and went to the Jets. But it's kind of a scary backfield with Lamar, man. Like having those three guys that are veteran guys, and I don't know, like I don't know if that's true, but I heard the announcer say something like that, and I was like, that would be insane if that was their backfield actually. So it might be because
For
they're
sure.
right now. I think they're third in the league for. They're either third or they're third for total offense. They're number one for rushing right.
Yeah.
They're put up a total of like 220 per game. Oh, kind of crazy.
Yeah, another game I'm probably gonna definitely keep an eye out for. I'm definitely gonna watch tomorrow night, like on to the off to the side. It's gonna be Carolina and Houston. Unfortunately for Houston, Tyler Taylor, I don't think he's starting. They're gonna put in the backup.
Yeah,
Um,
Mills. Yeah,
yeah, Mills, which he hasn't really done a lot to prove that he's anything really at this point. So that's gonna be a tough blow for them. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's never gonna play for the Texans again. So they don't have a lot of options left on offense, but they haven't been playing too bad, surprisingly enough. Their defense is actually not not the best, but it's not the worst. And same thing with their offense. They're kind of like smack in the middle as far as rankings go. But the Panthers defense so far as of today is number one. I mean, as far as numbers go. So that's going to be, uh, piquing my curiosity to see if their defense is going to continue to play the way they do. And Sam Darnold is looking good with them out there offensive wise. He's really producing. He says here 451 passing yards in the first half of this season. Um, that's really darn good. I mean, the guy's throwing the ball, he's making smart throws, and he's making plays with the guys that he's got out there. And then you got Christian McCaffrey as well and DJ Moore, and they're just combining for all these yards that he's able to get each game, and it's been really productive for them. And you have a defense that backs you up. I'm just really curious to see if Carolina can continue to roll with the streak here, the winning streak of 2-0, and go to 3-0 and play the way they have. It's really impressive, I think. And then Houston, they're 1-1. I don't know how much of a chance they have without Tyler Taylor, but they've definitely shown that they can hang in there and fight to win football games, especially with the way that they played against the Browns. So that was an impressive game, so that makes me want to watch this more just to see how both the teams
uh,
perform.
I literally just saw this thing pop up,
Hmm.
and it said update about Rob Gronkowski's film from Rob himself. I watch so much film, my girlfriend gets mad at me. And that's
Oh,
a statement he was like retracting. Oh god, it's funny. I didn't mean to like change it. I just saw that. I was
no,
like,
you're
that's really
good.
funny.
No, that's good. Um, Man, but of course, the main game that I think everyone's excited to see here in good old Texas is definitely going to be the Monday night game. Dallas Cowboys and Eagles. The last time we met up with them, it was in December, just around the holidays. I mean, it was a good old fashioned smacking, 37-17. Obviously, the personnel is different for both teams. But it's going to be a really exciting game. I mean, coming in here, we have a top five offense coming in. Passing and rushing is definitely up there as far as the yards game. The defense in the Eagles is what has been looking pretty good the last 2 weeks. They did take a major blow. I think they lost one of their captains, Graham, I think, to an injury. Like he's out for the year, so that's going to definitely help us to not worry about getting any pressure to Dak, and we can protect them. And it's going to be a good game. Still pending, even without Cooper, like Lewis said, we're probably going to get some more play out of our tight ends. I think we have two really good tight ends in Schultz and Blake Jarwin. They got hands. They're big time receivers, and we've seen them make plays and even plays in the playoffs to get first downs and other things with Dak, and they have good rapport with him. And we still got guys like CeeDee Lamb and Wilson, receiver number one. He's a pretty good slot receiver stepping in there for Gallup. So I think we have a good chance at making this a big game for us. Jalen Hurts is looking good, but I know that if we can get pressure and if we could do something similar to what we did to Justin Herbert, but maybe get more pressure, then I think we'll be okay. I think we can kind of emulate some of the ways that the 49ers found ways to stop them. We can too, but maybe better. And I think we have some of the better tools. our defensive ranking, just based on how many points have been scored in the last two games, isn't that great. It's at 27th, but I know it can improve. So that's a game I'm looking forward to see because, like you said, from week 1 to 2, you look at improvement. It should be the same thing going from week 2 to 3. How does the football team improve? I think we're right where we're at, where we need to be with offense. It's just on the defensive side of the ball, and I want to even say special teams. Are we improving from week to week and putting ourselves in a better position to win games going forward? So I'm curious to see that because I know that our defense could definitely be a lot better than they've played at times. So excited to see the game come Monday night. It just sucks we have to wait so long.
Like it's funny you bring up the defense because I'm like looking at this right now.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are ranked 27th overall after 2 weeks, but you're leading the league in turnovers, and your overall turnover differential is +4. You have the highest turnover differential in the league currently right now. And you really think about the two teams that you played, one being the Super Bowl champs.
Yeah.
The turnovers you were able to create in that game is what kept you in that game. And it was actually your special teams, like you talked about, or will let you down. Like you guys should be 2-0, honestly. But then your turnovers that you guys created in the Chargers game and being able to score off of those, like you guys, it's just one of those things, man. Like because I used to be an Emmitt Smith fan. Like that was my favorite football player of all time. And when he retired, I didn't really have an NFL team after that. Okay. And like up here, you can kind of see it like right behind that whiskey bottle. That's my signed Emmitt Smith helmet, Dallas Cowboys helmet. So I got signed by him. But like, so being kind of an outside perspective, like viewer of the Cowboys, your guys' offense is so good that when your defense can generate those turnovers, your team's turning them into points. But then it's almost kind of a thing where it's like that next possession, if they could just get another stop and get off the field, you're more likely going to take a 2-score lead. But they haven't been able to do that part of it yet. Like, hey, we got a turnover, our offense scored. Next defense possession, we go out, then we're giving up points.
Yeah.
Like they can do like back to back, like couple series or something. Like, and it's early too, and you guys have had injuries. You guys are having to put new guys in, rotate people out. One guy's got COVID and all that stuff, and we're still dealing with that, all that mess and protocols. So, but I mean, like, just speaking to what you said, they look really low defensively overall, but you guys are leading the league in turnovers. That's something to say right there. Like, I mean, Tampa Bay, they were considered number 1 ranked defense in the league. And right now, their turnover like differential is -1. I think they're like 24th overall. And they were like considered the highest rated defense start the season because they pretty much brought everybody back. So, Liz, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with limiting the 3 and outs. Because if you're having long drives on offense, your defense is not as winded. And I think the 3 and outs, punting the football, your defense is on the field so much, they get tired. There's only so much they can do. They're gassed. So I think that plays a factor, and I really think that if the defense could be, I know it's cliche, but a bend don't break. I mean, you figure even if they're driving down the field, 70 some yards, and you stop them in the red zone and you get an interception or force a fumble, they did all that and they didn't get no points. Or even if you limit them to a field goal and you come back and then you score a touchdown. So I think, that right there, sometimes you look at the numbers and like you said, we're 27th, we're giving up a lot of yardage, but when it counts, when it gets into the red zone, we're making the stops like what we did in Tampa. Granted, I know he kind of, tried to get that touchdown and he fumbled the ball, but the Cowboys still have to jump on it and get it. They weren't doing that last year. They weren't jumping on the football when the ball was on the ground. They're doing those things now. And then you saw the interception in the red zone with Justin Herbert. Those kind of things I think is what is separating us from last year. Those red zones.
For sure. Like you guys are, I mean, it's a big improvement from what I've seen so far, and honestly, one of the teams too, like not to necessarily like take away from the Cowboys or anything, but one of the teams I'm kind of been looking at overall that looks actually really good right now, and I feel like has made a huge leap is the Raiders, man. Like, bro, they're balling right now. Like they played, um, freaking who was it there? Who was their week one opponent?
The Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
They basically beat like two playoff teams pretty much because Steelers they're
That's right.
borderline
Yeah,
playoff team.
yeah. The
Yeah.
Ravens. They beat them in overtime, and then they beat the Steelers. Which too, like going to the not to change the subject again, but like the Raiders look really good, and I feel like is this Gruden's third year or fourth year with them? I feel like it's his fourth year, but I'm not sure on that. But I feel like Gruden's finally getting his system in place with these guys, and he's really starting to get the guys he wants for his system, like his offense, and his defense is actually starting to be built the way they want their defense to be built, and it makes a huge difference. Um, I'm really impressed with it, man, because the Steelers, I know they lost TJ Watt last week and that defense kind of changed, but they didn't lose a bunch of people on offense.
Mm-hmm.
And the Raiders didn't have Josh Jacobs. They were kind of banged up. Derek Carr actually got hurt his ankle, and he still finished that game. And they look good, man. Like they look really good right now. So I'm interested, especially with them being in the AFC West with the Chiefs and stuff. Like, I'm interested to see how that plays out for them this year.
That was actually a game that I actually highlighted, the Raiders versus Dolphins, because I mean it's one thing to beat a team, you're underdogs, you really don't have much to lose. You're playing against the Ravens, and then you come up with an upset. Then you play the Steelers. You're Steelers. They're looking like a playoff team, but what can you do when you're playing against a team that you're supposed to beat? Sometimes that right there, you take a team lightly. You got to win those games that you're supposed to win, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do against the Miami Dolphins and a backup quarterback. Are they gonna start and get there and punch them in the mouth and win by two scores like I know they can, or are they going to go back to being the Raiders of old like last year? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do this week.
Yeah, that's a good point too. That's a really good point because me and Lil Jacob, I think we talked about this in our first episode. Like everybody, like you're in the NFL and like you're a pro, but there's different levels of pros. Like you got like guys who are barely making the team and they're contributing and they're like on special teams, and then you got guys who are good athletes that can get you stuff here and there. Then you got your all stars like your Zekes, your Dalvin Cooks, all these like crazy Mahomes, all like just all those players, but they're all different levels of pros. And like to your point, Lewis, of these teams that you should beat, like you can't take them lightly because they're professional athletes. Like you take them lightly, they all of a sudden they'll drop 31 on you, and you're just like, what the hell happened this week? Like what happened? And I that's a kind of a Green Bay scenario week one. A lot of people, I mean, me and Lil Jacob sat right here. We're like, bro, it's Winston. Like, he's going to throw a ton of picks. Like, let's be serious. And this dude came out and put us on blast, basically.
Yeah, I think he heard us.
I think he tuned in that week, man. Like, oh my God, he was out for vengeance.
Yeah, you're right. You got different levels of athletes, and then you got those guys that are so special. They're so great. They don't have to watch film. They just need to know, is it a pass? Is it a run? On what down?
Which direction do I go?
And they go out there and they just get it. But those are like 1 in a million. They can do that for sure. But no, I'm also curious to see because the Raiders haven't really gotten like a defined rushing attack yet. With Jacobs, I think you said he was hurt, right? So I'm curious to see if it continues that way, and if it does, how long they can continue to win the way they are by being pass dominant and only really getting anywhere with the pass, because I think you can only do that for so long in the NFL before teams figure you out, or you go face that team that hasn't figured out, or if it's going to get balanced out, or what they're going to do. Because John Gruden's a smart guy. He's always been a smart guy. He knows at some point they're gonna have to get better at running the football, instead of having like a back and forth match. And there's gonna be some tough teams that they're gonna face soon. So
I saw
uh,
I saw a thing today, and it was like the NFL memes, and it literally showed like a playbook, and it said Derek Carr's playbook, and the guy like opened it up, and all it said was throw the ball to Waller. That's all that was in the playbook was throw the ball to Waller.
Waller Waller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, that pretty much sums it up, dude. That guy's a beast, man.
Yeah.
And have you guys like heard about his story? Have you guys actually heard about like what he's gone through?
No, I haven't.
So it was on Hard Knocks 2 years ago, whenever the Raiders were on there.
Mm.
So the dude actually used to be with the Ravens, and he got cut by the Ravens because he was having issues with practice and everything. Turned out he was like heavily involved in substance abuse. And he talks about it on Hard Knocks how I think he talks about like cocaine was his thing. And he actually has been able to get himself clean. He's been like sober now for I think 5 years or something like that. And then he got picked back up by the Raiders, and he was able to like stay with them and all this stuff. And it's pretty cool. And I guess from like I know he has like a area at home that he goes and does his like continued rehab. I don't want to say rehab, but like counseling or whatever, and like goes into his substance abuse meetings, everything. And he helps like other people, but he also goes to like when he's on the road, he'll go to like other places where you can go in and like talk and counsel and stuff like that. So it's not just like something he does at home. Like it's like a continuous practice every day. And it just like it was cool to see what he's overcome, like those demons that he's overcome.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's also like taking what he's learned and helping it apply to like some other people that he knows in the league or like people in the community, and like trying to take what he's learned and just like pay it forward to those and try to help them get through it. And because I mean, we've seen it, man. Like Josh Gordon is a prime example of that dude's, and it's like I think it's marijuana is his issue, but that dude has come in the league, out of the league at least 100 times now and stuff due to the same issue. And the guy is crazy talented. Like he's stupid talented, and he just can't get past it, stuff. So like he's Darren Waller. Like when I saw that on Hard Knocks, man, I'm seeing what he's overcome. Like I became a big fan of him. Stuff like just a personal fan. Like that's a good guy. Like he's really making an impact, like for himself, his family, his community, and it's somebody you can like definitely get behind.
Yeah, and he had some really big games too that on fantasy wise as well. So yeah, I mean it's impressive overall what he's been able to do.
He's a great athlete, man, and it's kind of just crazy, like where he's at right now. Okay, think about that like 5 years ago if he was clean. Like you might be looking at one of the greatest tight ends ever in league history with what he's been able to produce in 2-3 years. Give that guy another 8 years total. Like, where would this dude's career be?
Kind of reminds me of a guy like Gregory from the Cowboys. I mean, he was suspended 3-4 years. Yeah. And now finally he's back on track. So hopefully he could stick and stick with the Cowboys, because he does make an impact when he's on the field.
Yeah. And I don't know, man, it's kind of crazy. Like, and I don't want to say like I understand it because I don't do drugs or anything. I know people who've gone through that stuff, and like when they talk to me about it, I just sit there and I'm like, I'm sorry you've gone through that, man, but like I can't relate to that, where you physically have had something that alters your mind, controls your body, and like that's all you want and crave and need to function. And just all these people have all these great gifts, man, and some of them they just can't get past something like what seems so small, But definitely be a big impact for sure. What do you guys think about Minnesota Seahawks this week?
gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a really good game.
Minnesota looked a lot better week 2 than they did week 1.
Yeah, but I think Russell Wilson and company is I don't think they're taking that last loss lightly. I know that's a game they really wanted to beat Titans, and they were disappointed. And then the defense just, I mean, not that they could help it, but Derrick Henry pretty much just did whatever he wanted that game.
I'm
Back
glad
to
he got rolling, man. I'm glad he finally
yeah.
got rolling.
Boy did he. Once he went going, that was it. Nothing was stopping him. And
I would get off those train tracks. I'll tell you that. That dude's running at me.
man, yeah, bro. It was kind of funny because they had called back a touchdown from him. Then they just ran the same thing the next play, and he scored again. I was like, yeah, you want to keep doing this? Just give me the ball. That's fine with me. But no, yeah, it should be a good game. But I think ultimately Seattle's probably gonna get away with the win over them.
I just feel like when you look at the Seahawks and you look at back when they won the Super Bowl and they went to the Super Bowl, I think they won one and lost one. They would mix in the run a lot better, but now you see him trying to sling it out to Lockett a lot, Metcalf, and it's cool. You know, you have all these weapons, but you know the formula to win a Super Bowl is still, you know, the running game. You got to get the running game going, and I feel like they kind of abandon the run sometimes. And I think that if Pete Carroll can start getting and a lot of it also too, Carson, you know, gets hurt every year. So
yes.
And, you know, if they can get that running game going the way they did in the past, then I think, you know, they could, you know, potentially be a contender.
Yeah, I mean they could. They definitely could for sure. I know, like they had like one of the better offensive lines when they were making the Super Bowl runs, and then they started making trades and all that stuff, and it kind of got to a point where they had some younger offensive linemen, and it just wasn't working for them. And it seemed like I think that's honestly why Marshawn Lynch was like, "Dude, I'm out of here." Like he went from being able to run the ball downhill and get after people to getting smashed in the backfield every play. And it was I remember their offensive line was pretty bad, and I remember a couple games where Russell Wilson's running around and people are like, "Oh, bro, he's putting on a highlight reel," and like the announcers are like, "No, he's trying to survive." There's a big difference in this.
Yeah, sure. It's cool for us, but it's not cool for them at all.
Do you guys have a player right now in 2 weeks that has really surprised you with like their overall play where they're at currently? There's a guy that stands out to me, and I thought about this earlier and I forgot to like kind of put it in I don't want to say the script, but like I wanted to like bring this up towards the end of the thing.
For me, mine's Henry Ruggs.
Okay.
You know, he's doing what he's supposed to do, what he was supposed to do when he got drafted. I believe last year, you know, it just and a lot of times, you know, you don't have those. You know, what's that Vikings receiver who came on strong? CeeDee Lamb had a solid, you know, rookie year, but normally with receivers, it takes a little while for the receivers to get going. They're not like running backs. You get those rookie 4th round running backs and they're coming out having 1,000-yard seasons. So receivers are a little bit different, but for him, he didn't come out the gates strong like I thought he would. And this year, it just seems like he's ready to go and he's ready to be the Raiders' top receiver.
I agree with you there. Henry Ruggs has really popped off so far. Well, Jacob, you got anybody in mind?
Yeah, you know, specifically, one guy that really comes to mind, you know, that would have to be, you know, for our boy and rookie Micah Parsons. You know, typically when you talk about rookie players, you only have so high expectations, much less defensive players, right? You know, you talk about linebackers or guys that are not that aren't part of like an elite running back or receiver group, and he's definitely part of elite linebacker group. I mean, the guy's just something else special. We're seeing him develop at a higher level than I think anyone could have imagined. You know, the first 2 games in, he's already played 2 different positions, and did more than exceptionally well. You know, of course, started a linebacker against the Bucks, which he did pretty good for a first game. Yeah. He had 3 solo tackles, and then a total of 7, and he defended a pass. Then you look at a game where we're missing our starting defensive end, one of our starting defensive ends because of COVID, and the other one gets hurt. So say, hey, Michael, we need you to play defensive end. This guy hasn't played defensive end since he was in high school. He goes in there, And pretty much, I mean, he records a sack, that may or may not have been a sack just because of the way they called that play. Probably a little too early, but records a sack, gets a lot of QB pressures, is just beating them off the left side consistently, and just has like a really higher player rating and player grade for the whole week out of all defenders of pressuring the quarterback and getting there, playing at a second position that he never plays, and just playing professionally. 2 different games, 2 different positions at the pro level, and the fact that he's able to have the success he does, I mean, it's really exciting to see just how fast he's growing and adjusting. Because out of any linebacker that I think I've ever seen on the Cowboys get drafted and just be successful, I don't think I've seen anyone be as successful as he is being right now, especially if he continues to be healthy, and his athleticism. I saw a clip of him working out and learning some things from the great DeMarcus Ware,
Yes.
and them kind of getting on the same page with the things that he knows and passing on the knowledge. He's only going to get better as the weeks go by, and it kind of just feels like he's going to be the kind of guy that whatever we need him to do, he's going to be that guy. Whether it's go over to defensive end, on the left or the right side, play inside, middle linebacker. It's fun to watch. I really do have a lot of excitement looking at what the defense is going to look like and what he's going to be doing the next few weeks and as he progresses the game, because I know he's bound to just have like a cracked game or two where he's just the man, for getting turnovers and really putting pressure on the quarterback. So I'm really excited to see how he's developing already in 2 weeks.
When he was at Penn State, he gave me very much a vibe of like Lawrence Taylor and DeMarcus Ware, like the way he played when he was at Penn State. And I was glad, like me being an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, I was glad to see him go. I was like, good, glad he got drafted. Like, congratulations. But that dude, he was just all over the field, and involved. And he definitely gave me a vibe of those two guys. Hell, man, I hope he lives up to, that potential, because that potential is there for sure. One person that has recently like really stood out to me, and he's very under the radar right now. So if you need a quarterback and you don't really have like a solid number one, I would actually pick this guy up, and that is Teddy Bridgewater. Right now he's got almost 600 yards passing and 4 touchdowns on the year. The guy has been playing very well. Granted, his first 2 weeks was the Giants and the Jags. Okay. This week he's got the Jets. But I'm actually like really happy to see him back performing how he was before his injury. Because when he had his knee injury and he completely like dislocated his leg and stuff, it was like talks of like Mackenzie Milton at Florida State right now. Like, there's a very small chance that you may ever be able to run again, like be able to jog. There's like a 10% chance this may happen. And just seeing where that guy's at now and like how he's able to perform. And I did say in our first episode with Jared Judy that I was like, I do think he's going to have a more productive fantasy this year because he's going to have a good quarterback, like a solid quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's somebody that's really been playing very well, and I'm happy to see. Like, I'm very surprised with his production so far for Denver this year, and where he's at. So, yeah. But you guys got anything else before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, I just got one thing. I should have said this earlier in the podcast when I was doing the introduction, but we usually have. I'm a cook for Extreme Texas Tailgates, so we have the tailgates for the UTSA events, okay. And after that, we go to the after party. Usually it's Vestia 88. It's a bar and grill. So that's on the UTSA at the Alamo Dome. We do that. But for the away game this Saturday, from 2 to 6, all you can eat barbecue for $20. And so that's going to be from 2 to 6. We're going to have brisket. We're going to have ribs. And that's the Vestia 88. The address is 2119 I-35, San Antonio, Texas, 78208. So if you and your followers want to go by, I'll be out there cooking it up for y'all, and we'll watch some football, some college football. So I just wanted to let y'all know that.
Hold on, bro. How much is a plane ticket right now? That sounds good as hell. Holy shit.
Yeah.
You said $20 all you can eat?
$20 all you can eat barbecue from 2 to 6.
Bro, I don't think you know how big of a guy I am. Like, damn. That's a good deal, bro. Hell yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have anything set up online?
We have, if you want to follow us, Extreme Texas Tailgate on Facebook. We have something on Facebook. You can check out our events that we have.
Okay.
My buddy Ruben, he has the big rig, and then I normally cook with him for him along with some of my buddies. So we have some events from time to time. Most of the time it's the UTSA tailgates, and then the barbecue rodeo kickoff for the rodeo in February. We usually host a big event there where we have, drinks, food, you name it, DJs. We try to do a lot of events. So check us out at Extreme Texas Tailgate, and there'll be some videos of the events and the food that we're cooking up. Yeah, check that out.
You guys have like a donation page or anything on that Facebook site? Because I won't be able to go, obviously, but I'd like to contribute something, to your events.
Yeah, we don't have that yet right now at this time. It's something that we may look into. Normally we have sponsors for our different events too, as well. Okay. If you do want to be a sponsor, you can let me know, and then we can go from there. All right. But it's going to be a fun time. College football. We're going to have all the games, not just UTSA. We're going to have all the games. And by the way, UTSA Roadrunners, if you ain't familiar with them, they're 3-0 right now. So they're doing good right now.
Roadrunners rank us.
Well, Jacob, what do you got, brother?
Well, man, I just know that this is going to be an exciting week for football. Very shortly, before too long, we'll be starting the basketball season. I know that Lewis said that he'd be able to jump in from time to time. So I know everyone's got their obligations to handle outside life, so we appreciate him joining. Definitely welcome to join any week. And I know that you have a lot more that you could talk about too once basketball starts and some of the other sports get started around. We'll do some more of those for sure during the podcast, and not just football, but yeah, it's going to be good, man. I mean, right now we're kind of just starting with football, but we're definitely going to get into more other things and stuff like the other sports. As whenever better UFC cards become available, boxing, can probably go over that whenever it's actually worth talking about. And yeah, that's going to be the plan for the future. But I appreciate it, Lewis, you joining us, talking about some football.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure getting to meet you. And we've talked about trying to get more people involved in podcasts and everything over time. So I know little Jacob and I, we both stream. We're content creators, as they would say. We've been talking about some other ideas as long as like streaming, content creation, and getting some of our streamer friends involved with things. So it's not just necessarily related to sports. It's just what it is right now. But I do appreciate you like coming on, Lewis, and definitely sharing your insight, man, for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to doing it again sometime.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah. So that's gonna wrap it up for episode 3. Everybody, we appreciate y'all stopping by, tuning in. If you guys could, if you guys do come across the podcast, and I update some things on my TikTok as well. Once again, I'm Selfless_gaming. You can find me on Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You can find me on all of those things. If you guys do come across the podcast, though, Selfless Littl Gaming, and you check us out on Spotify, go to one of those social medias, go to the Twitch channels and stuff, anything you guys want to talk about or even add, if you guys got, your point of view you want to add to the discussion and stuff, hit us up on those. We're more than willing to interact with people and hear back from you guys, especially that are listening, of what you would like to hear more about. Or, if you kind of want to hear about a different topic, just let us know. All right. Well, Jacob, you want to close us out, brother?
Yeah, guys, same thing. Feel free to give me a follow. And or put any kind of feedback you have. If there's a different sport, different player topic, someone was saying. Definitely welcome looking in and interacting. So I wanted to bring Lewis on here and hopefully bring some other people because it's always good to have different opinions, different parts of input, and basically it'll be fun to grow the podcast as much as we can and interact with as much people as we can because that's the whole fun part of it to me. So definitely feel free to reach out to us and follow on social media as well.
We usually try to do this usually every Wednesday night. So if you do come across this, usually 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7:15 Central, and then I don't know, like West would be like what 6:15, 5:15, something like that. So
Something like that.
yeah, so we usually try to do it live on Twitch as well, or anything. But you guys be good, take care of each other. We appreciate your time and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next
Thank you.
week.
Help you later.
Good one.